There's a moment early in The Left Hand of Darkness when Genli Ai watches Estraven at a formal dinner and thinks, almost exactly in these words, that Estraven moves with a woman's subtlety. Later, he describes another Githinian as having a landlady's fussiness. Later still, he watches someone being brave and notes their masculine courage. The Githinians have no gender. They've never had gender, and Genli Ai cannot stop assigning it. This is the thing most readers get wrong about this novel. They read it as an imaginative exercise. What would a world without gender look like? Le Guin herself sometimes described it that way in interviews, but the novel she actually wrote does something far more uncomfortable. It doesn't show us a world without gender. It shows us a man who cannot see a world without gender, even when he's standing in one. Genli Ai is our narrator for much of the book, and he's a good man, empathetic, intelligent, genuinely trying. He's been trained for this mission. He knows, intellectually, that the Githinians are ambisexual, that they have no fixed sex, that the categories he carries from Earth don't apply here. And he applies them anyway, every single time. When a Githinian is nurturing, Ai sees femininity. When one is aggressive, he sees masculinity. When one confuses him, when the behavior doesn't map onto anything, he feels revulsion, not disagreement, revulsion. His body rejects what his mind already accepts. And Le Guin never corrects him. That's the devastating part. There's no moment where Ai has a breakthrough, where he finally sees the Githinians as they are. The closest he comes is during the journey across the ice with Estraven, when isolation strips away everything except survival and something like love. But even then, even in that extraordinary intimacy, Ai describes Estraven in gendered terms. He can't help it. It's not a failure of will, it's a failure of perception. This is what separates Le Guin from nearly every other writer who has attempted to imagine beyond gender. She understood that the thought experiment isn't actually possible. You can describe a genderless being, but you cannot perceive one. Not really. Not from inside a gendered consciousness. The novel doesn't transcend the binary. It demonstrates why transcendence is beyond the reach of anyone raised inside one. Consider the pronouns. Le Guin famously used he for the Githinians and spent decades being criticized for it. She later experimented with other solutions. She invented pronouns and was never satisfied. Because the problem isn't linguistic, it's cognitive. Every pronoun is a betrayal of the Githinians, and there is no pronoun that isn't. Language itself is the cage, and Le Guin built the novel inside it deliberately. The plot, the political intrigue on Gethin, Estraven's exile, the harrowing crossing of the ice, is absorbing. But it functions as a delivery mechanism for a single, relentless observation. You cannot perceive what you have no framework to perceive. Genli Ai was sent to Gethin to see it clearly and report back. He fails. Not in his mission, that more or less succeeds. He fails at seeing. The entire novel is a record of that failure. What makes this radical, what makes it still unmatched more than 50 years later, is that Le Guin implicates the reader. You are also gendering the Githinians as you read. When Estraven acts with political shrewdness, you picture something. When Estraven weeps on the ice, you picture something else. Le Guin knows this. She structured the novel so that you cannot avoid it. Your imagination is just as caged as Genli Ai's. There are chapters told from Estraven's perspective, journal entries from the ice, and they're the only time we get an unmediated Githinian voice. The difference is startling. Estraven doesn't describe people in gendered terms because the concept simply doesn't exist. The prose shifts. The observations shift. It's like hearing in a different key. And then Ai's narration resumes, and the categories slam back into place. That contrast is the argument. Le Guin once said she was not predicting the future, but describing the present. The Left Hand of Darkness isn't a novel about what humans might become. It's a novel about what humans cannot stop being. Creatures so shaped by their categories that even love, even total immersion, even years of living proof cannot dislodge the framework. Genli I crosses a glacier with someone who defies everything he thinks he knows about people. He nearly dies beside them. He loves them. That much is clear, even if the novel never quite says it. And still, on the last page, he cannot see them whole. That's not a failure of character. It's Le Guin's thesis. And it's more honest than any novel that pretends we can simply imagine our way free of our own architecture.